let's get into the discussion then. So when it comes to the endangered animals, there are various groups of endangered animals. As you can see, some are quite obvious like the Asian elephants, leopard and sloth bears, while there are some species that are not so obvious and not very known by us, such as the talk macaque. As proved, irrespective of the category, sir, how can we take measures to protect them from being endangered?
Spumali, I'm sorry, I missed the last bit after you mentioned about talk macaque. So the question I understood is, since I missed the last bit, you are referring to the not so obvious or not so known endangered species and their conservation. Is that the focus?
Yes, actually, how to take measures to protect them from being endangered irrespective of the category.
Pumali, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
I see. So, yeah, I mean, you can hear me okay, right?
Yes, sir, we can.
Pumali, yes. What I do, I think I will, okay, no, let's continue. Pumali, let me know. Pumali, let me know if if my connection is not stable, okay?
Okay, sir, sure.
So, yeah, there are, you know, as Professor Kotagama mentioned, there are endangered species, and we normally classify endangered species as the basic convention that we use, or the basic criteria we use is the IUCN Red List criteria, which has about 6 different criteria. Of that, if a species is threatened, endangered, or critically endangered, these are, we call them endangered species. And the basis for these classifications are the current population size of the species, the number of breeding adults surviving in the wild, the range of the species, and the projected or known rate of decline of the species. If the rate of decline or the range, current range of the species, or the number of surviving individuals in the wild, or the estimated the probability of the estimated numbers of the species is very low, alarmingly low, then a species based on, there are specific definitions for each of these categories that I mentioned just now, and it can fall into a critically endangered species. That means if some human intervention is not given, or if the causes of that species decline is not fixed, the species could extinct in very near future, normally within about 10 years or within 3 generations of the species. So this is a general kind of a description of what is critically endangered means. If it is endangered, then if specific action is not given, specific attention, conservation attention is not given, the species could go into critically endangered state in within 10 years or 3 generations of that species. Similarly, if it is threatened, if the conservation action and attention is not given, the species or the causes of that situation, for that endangered situation of that species is not being corrected, then the species could go into the endangered level. So these are the general criteria. So based on the information available of its species size, I mean population size, the population is one location, or if it is for very few individuals, say 20, 30 individuals or 100 individuals of the species is left in the wild, or the species has been declining steadily over the past 10 years or so, then regardless of what kind of species that is, whether it's an elephant or a blue whale or some charismatic organism like that, or a small ant or a small small orchid or a small plant, it falls under the threatened category. So regardless of the state or like appearance or the importance of that species to humans, if it's a plant or an animal, it could fall into these endangered categories. Answering to the specific question, how we conserve these not so charismatic endangered species. I think since Professor Kottagama hasn't mentioned some of the examples of the charismatic endangered species, I will just kind of list few, like Sri Lanka's elephant. The Asian elephant is an endangered species. Sri Lanka's leopard is an endangered species. Our bear, sloth bear, is endangered. And then blue whale is an endangered species. Similarly, some of the species of fora trees, the large dipterocarps trees in the rainforest, especially in the tropical rainforest and mountain forests, some endemic species that are found in these forests, some of these large trees are endangered. And then fairly known species like Dotalutuak is endangered. Similarly, species like Kaluandura in Colombo is endangered. So all these are more like Vesak organ, which is fairly known. It's endangered. So those are charismatic species that and then you have the whole assortment of small frogs found in the rainforest canopy. They found in only 1 or 2 locations in Sri Lanka, and they are endemic to Sri Lanka. So they are not found in anywhere else in the world. And am I still audible?
Yes,
am I
sir.
still audible?
Yes, sir, you are.
Humali? Okay, great. Okay, the power went off for some reason. The internet is still going. Okay, so I'm in Mana, and I'm in near Tondo area. So I'm fairly remote location. So power is not there, but I think I'm surviving. All right. So the species, and then talking about not so charismatic species, there are several species of bats, like several species of ants. There's one species that is found only in Ratnapura district in a small, a few locations in the mid-elevation forest. And this ant is very unique because it is one of the oldest ants found in the planet. It's found in Sri Lanka and only in Sri Lanka. So it is endangered because it's found in only 1 or 2 locations of Sri Lanka and not nowhere else in the planet. So something like that. So this ant, for example, it's found in like Kompakali in Ratnapura town. It's been discovered. It's been actually identified from. And that one, for example, I'm pretty sure if you see them, most ordinary person, if you are not special, if you have a specialist knowledge on identifying ants, you would not identify it. But that doesn't reduce the threat that the species face. In that case, in that ant, for example, it's the very narrow distribution found in only 1 or 2 forest patches in Sri Lanka, at least known patches. And so it is in a bad state because without knowing, somebody could kind of clear that forest patch because it doesn't have a known important species. Even if it is important species, for example, today I heard a very disturbing story that about 2,000 acres of forest being cleared in Kurunegala district simply because somebody thought that the elephants are hiding in these are government and coming to the village at night. So the solution taken was to clear off about 2,000 acres of forest. So would that make elephants go extinct? Probably not in shorter term. But what are the other species found in these forests, like ants, insects, to birds, butterflies, to reptiles, fish? So this endangered category, it's a kind of an important criteria for us to understand the importance of habitats, importance of ecosystems. So that as a whole we can protect those areas. So in that light, charismatic species are only found in several specific locations. But if you get all the endangered species, endangered small mammals, endangered birds, endangered reptiles, endangered fish, endangered amphibians, endangered insects, butterflies, moths, then centipedes and other smaller invertebrates, and endangered plants, endangered like small bryophytes, like smaller ones. Then in Sri Lanka, since we are very diverse as a country, and our wet zone is specifically diverse because we carry the tropical rainforest and the montane forest in it. I think every single forest patch that is available for us at this stage, that have not been destroyed by some either poor planning or some other reasons, can carry at least one or two endangered animals. So by looking at these endangered animals, or animals that are their existence being threatened, especially endemics and species that are only found in Sri Lanka, it is a great conservation tool, a great tool to assess our habitats. I'm like a ghost because it's all dark here around here, but for some miraculous reason, try to fix this. All right, Vimali, over to you.
Okay, so we really appreciate you being here amidst all these obstacles. I would like to direct a very interesting question, sir. That is, based on your experiences gained by traveling over 50 countries, what methods of conservation are followed in developed countries that we can implement in Sri Lanka?
The thing is that I think the real difference between conservation action of a country, in my opinion, is twofold. One, what the amount of capital or the wealth that that country has to implement, to devise and implement conservation action and planning. That is one aspect, how rich that country is. The second aspect, in my opinion, is the population density of that country. In my opinion, countries that has very high human population density has greater difficulty in conservation planning, because most of the laws of basically every country in the planet is written mostly some decades ago, when our knowledge on, or our what you call our appreciation or quantification of biodiversity is not being the priority when these laws were created about a few decades ago, and they were mostly created to satisfy human needs. The planet consisted of over 1 million species, but we make our laws, we make our land laws, we make our consumption-based laws, we make all our basic legal framework to support humans. There's a kind of some sort of a kind of idea among many people in the planet, is that the planet, its consumption and its utilization is solely directed towards the human benefit. I heard that many times, even among learned people, they say that if the human element is not there, that particular aspect is not existing. So the problem is that when you have lots of such humans, like just simply human, like the number of heads are higher in a higher density, conservation planning is difficult because every person would have rights, they would have demands, they would have needs, and they would, and the voting and the democracy and the other mechanisms would push towards satisfying the needs of those people, regardless of the needs of the environment or the planet. So that is the bigger problem. And the other problem is that if you have capital, if you have wealth as a country, then planning is easier to do. The power came back. For example, if you make a highway, if you have money, if you are not in debt, then you can establish a better mechanisms, instruments to safeguard environmental degradation. If you plan a city, if you have enough wealth, or if you can afford to implement certain things, it is easier there. Here in Sri Lanka, what would happen? You know, whatever the conservation action comes with a price tag, and political and societal, would the society or the politics ready to take that burden for the safeguard of the environment? So that question gets trickier when you are a poor country. So those two are the main factors, in my opinion. And then the knowledge on environment, the valuation of the environment, the understanding of environment also plays a role, because at the end of the day, people will drive the decision making of the decision makers. So that is a broad answer. To directly answer, I've seen certain aspects, also called the global north or global west. Certain aspects I've seen better implemented in the global south, or the developing countries like ours. For example, people are more tolerant in our past, like in Sri Lanka, people are tolerant about wildlife. They would tolerate a certain amount of crop damage. They would tolerate a certain amount of material damage, compared to a country where everything is measured in monetary terms. At the same time, so in that light, species that are kind of has a certain ability to withstand human pressure, like birds, most species of birds, species like certain insects, and then small mammals, that sort of, and if you can tolerate certain level of habitat disturbance and human anthropogenic changes, like altering the landscape, altering the drainage, and that sort of kind of alterations causing by humans, they can societies like ours, which are relatively tolerant about biodiversity, those species can survive. So as a result, in Sri Lanka, still after having this high population, the human population density, we have a fairly good biodiversity still exists in a relatively unharmed manner. And the other hand, developed countries, the implementation of law and order is much better than here. The problem in Sri Lanka is that our political system, our administrative system are kind of, in a way, very tribal, from like small, like very powerless or poor person to powerful, educated elite. Across the society, people don't respect law. People don't adhere to laws, and the laws are very kind of crude in a way. They were not directly designed or implemented in an environmentally or human sensitive angle. So as a result, implementation of environment laws suffer a lot. We have all sorts of complicated and simple environmental laws and practices available, instruments available, but implementation of those are at times very poor. So in developed countries, more quantitative thinking kind of systems, the implementation of laws are much better. As a result, the regulation is better. So so there's no one golden or like a miraculous place. It's completely safeguarded while humans are in a happy kind of marriage between environment and humans. But at the same time, there's no such place. At the same time, there are even really kind of harsh places. Certain species can survive if the society is tolerated. So I've seen a mixture of kind of all these parts of the planet.
Thank you very much, sir, for walking us through this broad topic in an easy way. And I'm sure that was easy for all of us to understand, sir. It was indeed a very much needed explanation.